Hey everybody, thank you for joining me for a completely different type of video. Obviously about Forza Horizon 5, you've seen the title, you know what this is about. I really want to discuss with everybody how this game feels with a wheel. Now I know a lot of us here are just the worst kind of gamer because we're sim racers, and that's what we enjoy. So you know all too well the pain of trying to play Horizon 3 or 4 with a steering wheel. It just didn't feel good. It felt mushy. The force feedback felt like you were driving through a field of mashed potatoes. The car never felt connected with the road, and because of that, you could just lose control without any feedback or any warning that it was about to happen. But you know, sim racers, we're kind of masochists. We set ourselves up for pain a lot, so when I got Horizon 5, naturally I tried the steering wheel, and I'm incredibly pleasantly surprised that it feels so much better than it ever has before. So I'd been playing the absolute mess out of the game, and I was browsing the Xbox subreddit, and people were talking about how fun Forza is, and I had mentioned that it's fun with a wheel now. And there was a lot of people that weren't aware that it was really fun with a wheel, so that's what this video is going to be about. It's not a review of the graphics or the game because those are already out there, and they're done way better than I could ever do anything like that. So I just really wanted to make this video to draw some attention to the fact that whether you're drifting down a mountain pass in a purpose-built drift car, or hustling a trophy truck just down a mountain, or even rallying a purpose-built Impreza, and if you're normal and you like to drive on the asphalt and actually do the races, it all feels really good. So first off, what am I using? Because your mileage may vary a little bit on this. I'm using a Thrustmaster TX base, and I'm using settings that I got from briancaponen.com. It'll be linked in the description. He's got a lot of different setup guides for different wheels and different games, so it's worth a look. He's never steered me wrong before, pun intended, with Dirt Rally 2 and Project Cars and things like that. So as these scroll down, you can get a look for them at the website. But they are quite a bit different from the default settings. So this is one of those things where just be aware your mileage may vary based on what your gear is or what your personal preferences are. But I kind of like this setup right here, so that's what I went with. From what I understand, Playground Games has said that they revamped the majority of the physics model and things like that, and I feel like I can really tell it. I've gone back and tried to play Horizon 4 after playing 5, and it just doesn't feel nearly as good to me. So exactly what feels better? For starters, like I kind of alluded to earlier, it feels like the car is connected with the road or the terrain that you're driving over. I can really tell when the suspension loads up at a certain corner of the car, and I know where that limit of grip is on this set of tires with this surface. Now, I wouldn't say the force feedback is incredibly detailed by any means. Like, it still leaves a lot to be desired in some aspects based on kind of like the road textures and things like that, but just overall, it's a big improvement on what we've had, and really it makes the game, I would consider to be very playable with a wheel, and not just playable, but you can be competitive. One of the other cool things that has really stood out to me is feeling the upgrades that you're adding to your vehicle. And as a quick example, I got this 1970 Camaro, and you kind of know what that feels like. It's super soft, it's really squidgy, it feels like a very lazy car. And you drive it around for a little bit, and you can see when you brake, the nose dives and everything like that, but not only can you see it now, you can kind of feel it, which is nice. Then if you go through and you upgrade that bad boy to race spec, and you put race springs and some grippy tires under it, it feels like a whole brand new vehicle, and you can actually feel those changes in the wheel instead of just seeing them on the screen. It's obvious that you've changed the complete characteristics of the car, and it's now a race-ready machine. Now obviously getting that XP board was vital to the completeness of this review. But what I'm feeling in the steering wheel now is that this is no longer a incredibly subdued, chilled out 70s cruiser. This thing is ready to go. The steering wheel feels nice and taut, and it's actually heavier. The steering is heavier than it was before. You can feel more things in the road. You can feel the suspension loading up a bit quicker. These are all things that I just did not expect from this game. But I'm just really happy that they're here in general. It's nice to have a Horizon game that I can play with my preferred setup, and it all works nicely together. And if you do feel like navigating the menus with the controller, it switches seamlessly between your keyboard, controller, and your steering wheel. So it all works together really nice. That said, right now there is a little bit of a glitch where sometimes the steering wheel will disconnect and the force feedback won't work. Usually the solution is to unplug the wheel with the game running and then plug it back in, and that most of the time solves it. Now here's where we have to stop for a second. So far, I've had nothing but good things to say, but I do want to take some time and talk about some little gripes that I've got with the game and some things that I would really like to see added in the future, because I know this is going to be one of those live service games, so it's going to see tons of updates over the next couple of years, and I think there's some things they could add that would really improve the experience. Alright, so the first thing I'd like to see added would be a virtual rear view mirror. This appeals mostly to people that drive in cockpit view a lot. It's really difficult to set your field of view so that you can see the physical in-car mirror for a lot of the cars. It needs constant adjusting, or you can't really see it. So to have a virtual mirror would really improve that experience. Now I know, yes, you can just map a button to look back on your steering wheel, but the added immersion factor of just being able to glance up at a rear view mirror would be really nice. In all fairness though, that could be an option that exists. I feel like I've looked everywhere for it and I can't find it. So if that option already exists in the game, if you could point me in the direction of it, I would really appreciate it. Continuing our discussion about immersion, I like to use the realistic gearbox for the car. And so typically that means all the time switching between the gearbox options in the game. Like that Dodge Viper we were just in has a nice chunky H pattern gear stick. This Pagani Huayra, it's got flappy paddles. Typically in Forza, you've got to go into the options menu and select, like we're about to do here, either manual or manual with clutch. And you have to do that kind of depending on what car you're in if you want to be realistic. I think it would be fantastic if they could add an option of a real world gearbox. So if the car in real life has an H pattern and you have an H pattern set up on your rig, it'll just automatically do that. It's something similar to like Project Cars 2 is actually really good about this. That was the first time I saw that in a game. And the main reason I bring this up is if you're playing by yourself, it's not really anything more than an annoyance. But if you're doing the multiplayer modes or racing with friends, you can't all the time switch your difficulty like that on the fly. So you might get stuck driving a car with 10 forward speeds and you have to use a clutch even though it doesn't have a clutch in real life and it becomes more of a hindrance. And I think I came up with a pretty decent solution. Some of the cars, they've already got the symbol here for the drivetrain. And they've also got symbols for, like the orange Fairlady Z has a symbol letting you know it's ready for drift. The Skyline just next to it has a symbol letting you know it's ready for drag race. And the Sylvia under them's got a symbol letting you know that it's ready for like street racing. Well, why don't we just add to that and put the transmission type in that same box? I think this would add just a really nice bit of information to the user interface, especially if they implement a real-world transmission option later on down the road. And my final gripe with the game is the fact that you can't switch between your own tuning setups sitting at the starting grid for a race. That would be incredibly helpful. So if we look in here, we can see that I've built two tunes for the Audi TT already. One's a street version and the other one's an off-road version. So if we skip ahead here to the starting grid of the event, if I wanted to tune my car, I can, but I cannot select either one of my own tunes that I've made. So we'll go down here and click on Tune Car, and you got all the normal stuff so you can tune what's already in the car. Or I can hit, save setup or reset to default. Or I can use the tune browser where I can see suggested tunes that have been built by the community, or I can see a list of my favorites. Now I can't favorite my own personal tunes, or I haven't found a way to, and there's no tab for me to use my own local tunes for my car. So I would really like to be able to use some of the tunes that I have put time into, and I don't have to go exit the race and load back in with a different tune. I should just be able to do it all right here at this menu. And once again, like for multiplayer races and things like that, it would just be a big quality of life improvement. So there we go. If you haven't tried Forza Horizon 5 yet, obviously I highly recommend it. I'm having such a good time with this game. It's the most fun I've had with a Forza game in quite some time. And most of that has to do with the usable force feedback and how the wheel and things like that feel now. If you would like to see more Forza Horizon 5 stuff on the channel, let me know, because I'm going to be playing it anyway, so if you guys kind of want to see more of it, then I'm here for it. I'll be glad to do it. So, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you sticking around for this part of the video. Hopefully, if you decided to download Horizon 5, your download's about done and you can go off and enjoy it. So, have a good time, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Take care.